Faruza Amira.
Hi, I'm Gita.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sharifah Sakinah Ahmad.
Hi, I'm Khalida Jassi.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Nur Intan Raihana Ruhayim.
Hello everyone, I am Nur Zarin Zulkarnain.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I am Hamira Hania Abdurrahman.
Hi, my name is Farizana binti Hamzah.
Hi, my name is Nurul Akila.
I am currently a data scientist at ST Microelectronics and Chief Operating Officer at Ever AI Technologies.
I'm also the founder of startup Jenga.
Currently, I'm Associate Professor in the Department of Intelligent Computing and Analytics, UTeM.
I'm also a statistician at WAI.
I am currently a senior lecturer at the School of Computer Sciences, University Science Malaysia.
Currently, I am a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Information and Communication Technology, University Technical Malaysia Melaka.
I'm also a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Industrial Management, University Malaysia Pahang.
And currently a second year student of Bachelor Degree of Computer Science in Artificial Intelligence at University Technical Malaysia Melaka.
Currently a final year student of Bachelor Degree of Computer Science in Artificial Intelligence at University Technical Malaysia Melaka.
Women in AI is awesome,
Engaging,
Remarkable.
Passionate and dedicated.
And a great platform for building friendships.
so let's join Women in AI Malaysia Summit.
Summit.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Women in AI Global Summit.
I am here to share a message of hope and inspiration.
Resilience, passion, humility, and resourcefulness
in closing the gender gap and promoting diversity and inclusion.
What we wanted to talk about today is
machine learning applied to Earth observational data,
evaluating and designing robot behaviors,
inclusive AI in prevention for social media harassment,
AI in healthcare,
AI algorithms in
AI and the recognition to handle latent,
building a distributed data exchange to manage the secure data flows,
economic value of AI,
applicable AI
and machine learning industries,
the future of the digital experience,
a related problem, attribution in marketing,
education for school students,
Africa Women in AI,
its execution for a good cause,
first data science competition platform of its kind in Africa,
space,
AI and sustainability,
on social impact on women,
AI-powered medical imaging,
AI beyond the data science,
AI as a career,
voice intelligence,
AI and the city,
design thinking perspective,
inclusion and diversity,
ecosystem, data revolution, ethics and diversity.
Can AI or machine learning help to solve my business problem?
They can only help us if we know how to work with them.
That helps people feel empowered and not threatened by AI.
To become future data scientists.
There's no point of fearing AI. It's going to be there no matter what.
What about leadership in these technology-immersed workplaces?
There's a sense of urgency on representation.
We have to think about inclusive AI.
So let's prioritize marginalized communities.
Not because they're women, because they're experts in their field.
Always put the humans first.
AI we are building is actually trustworthy.
Can we do something? Can we help people?
We integrate data, we look for patterns.
There is a business adoption aspect to it, and there's a regulation aspect to it.
Physicians have to be open-minded to work with the advancement in artificial intelligence.
To improve the operational process is the main business challenges of AI.
Technology is the least neutral thing that we could possibly find.
Just because we
Hi, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faris Diana and I'm your MC for the next 3 sessions. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you here this afternoon. I would like to thank you for joining us today for this special WAI Talk 4 on Big Data in Manufacturing Process Improvement. At this time, let's welcome our speaker, Mr. Venugopal Chinaya, and Senior Consultant from K Improve Solutions, Sendirian Berhad. He has been involved in training organization in Six Sigma, process improvement, analytics, and other related subjects for the last 7 years. He has spent about 11 years in major MNC, where he he is exposed to many real-life case studies in engineering and high technology manufacturing. To begin this program, we are pleased to have Mr. Venugopal to deliver his talk. Thank you.
Thank you for the warm welcome. All right, so let's start. I think there's a good introduction about what I do. So let's go ahead with our topic today. So basically, our topic today is about how we're going to enhance big data in the manufacturing process. So where does this comes in a lot is basically on how to make process improvement. In the last 10 years, for example, I think a lot of companies, a lot of organizations who are into manufacturing started to use data to improve their process. In the time, it's about in the last 10 years, where basically the revolution started was in 2009. Now, we may ask, why that particular time frame is that. This is where we had a tremendous computing power coming into place when related to the process improvement. Now, previously, there are similar process improvement ideas being implemented all over the manufacturing sector, manufacturing industry. Now, what made those last 10 years very interesting is that the ability for us to collect and also analyze large amount of data became much more easier and affordable. Before that, it was a little bit difficult in the sense of scaling those ideas because a lot of resource needed and things were pretty much expensive. So organizations are not really very big in a large scale. Somewhere in not really small, but somewhere in the medium part of the development, they find it very difficult to have those kind of investment. So in this particular idea was that where it's kind of like when to develop better, right? Now I'll go through jumping to what is the challenges basically we face in the manufacturing industry. So now, if you look at manufacturing industries, one of the major challenge for someone to be involved in the quality or in the yield output is that they like to reduce somewhere around all the 6 type of things. Okay, so like for example, if you're in a manufacturing, if you know that you don't really like to stop, because the idea is that when you stop, you kind of like waste time and basically you don't really making money on that particular part. And they also like minor interruptions in the process where you also want to avoid. But a lot of time, if you're in a manufacturing industry where you basically build the final product, a lot of time is actually spent looking at the quality loss. So the point is that you run production, you build something, at the end of the day, it's not really good to function, it's not really good to operate. That is basically a loss as well. So engineers in a manufacturing environment will spend a lot of time looking at how to improve the quality of these products. Okay, so of course there's a lot of other things they do. Design of experiment, optimizing the parameters, and so on, etc. So the whole idea, the concept here was to maximize the yield or the output as much as possible while minimizing the cost, especially on the waste. Now, how they do that is like fixing any issues that comes up during the production as fast as possible. Now, being said that, it's quite easy, okay? I mean, in the sense of like how do they practice it is like, first, when you have something happening, for example, you have a yield loss, you have seized certain types of defect, you try to contain the problem. Okay, so try to contain the problem, so to make sure the problem is minimized, it's not affecting so much of the issues. The second step that normally we do is we do a corrective action. Basically, we try to find the root cause, or at least partially of the cause, to fix it. And then, if possible, so sometimes it's not really that easy to say that, but then we would like to prevent it from happening again. So this is the whole idea about process improvement in manufacturing. Now, where do the challenges come? But it looks very easy, 3 steps done. But the challenges is that now engineers spend quite a significant amount of time to find the root cause, and they also spend quite a more effort to fix the root cause itself. So this can be a very time-consuming process, and now a lot of effort is being spent here. Now, the idea today is that how do we reduce the effort, reduce the time taken to do this, right? So now when we talk about root cause analysis, now why we do that? For example, if you're in a manufacturing process, you have a poor yield of a product, okay? You can have a functionality test which is failing. So these are the things that basically cause, okay? So in point of engineering challenges, that when you see something goes down, when the yield is not really performing as you like, you tend to have problems in the sense that your yield is bad or your output is not really good as it's supposed to be. So like we mentioned, the engineering challenge here, you have to contain the problem, find and fix the root cause, and then eventually improve the yield to become better. So now also in this particular sense that if you take about production point of view, you like to reduce the delays in the production, and especially you want to meet the client demand, and you also like to look at a cost which is low. So these are the things that a manufacturing industry basically face. Okay, so one of the things that if you see in the news right now, if you look at semiconductors, automobiles basically run more and more on semiconductors nowadays. So the idea is that when there is a production delay in the semiconductor part, it basically cascades down. Okay, so the effect just basically snowballs to the automobile industry. So they have to stop because these guys have to stop. So that's the urgency of dealing with this kind of things, like a root cause analysis. How do you fix a problem? So if your output is down or you're not meeting the expectation, there's a huge pressure on someone to work on this thing to actually address this. So that's the whole idea. Now, being said that, of course, that sounds like a very simple stuff, but then if you look at any process, any products that are being built for any particular use, it can be a very challenging process altogether. Now, why do I say that? Okay, so if you look at, for example, so something easy example like a handphone. Now you have multiple components in a handphone, and so let's say you built a model, and then you kind of like test it. Normally, if you do a manufacturing process on electronic products, right, you do a final test, okay, to make sure the functionalities works. You do a few random tests or more of a program kind of test. So when you do that, you find the product is not working as it's supposed to be. So now what happens is that you go back and try to find out what is causing the problem. So we need to find a component that causes this issue. So sometimes it's very easy because the test you run is very much correlates to the performance of certain components. But then it may not be so straightforward in the most cases, okay? So it takes time. So what do is that we normally, when we have a cause of failures for products like this, we take it out and then we do a failure analysis, which may take some time, right? So sometimes we call it like a failure analysis lab. You need to look at failure analysis engineer to look at it. Sometimes it can be in a 24-hour time frame, sometimes it can be a week, sometimes it can be a month. So it's not so easy to pinpoint in a very complex devices like this, all right? So now in a typical environment of normal root cause finding, this is what happens. So you tend to have a product with a poor yield or failure. So what we do is that we send this product for analysis. Okay. So now when we send this for analysis, okay, so sometimes, in a production environment, there's not only one particular issue that's going on. There can be multiple issues that's happening at the simultaneous time. So it creates a huge backlog for failure analysis, and sometimes if it's a complex analysis problem, it's going to take some time. And depending on a geographical location, maybe your FA lab in a different country, so it's going to take some time to do this. Now, even let's say eventually you get back the results, and then you analyze, and then you need to identify the problem. Then you have to confirm if this is what is causing the problem, and then you contain the issue, and then you correct the issue, do a corrective action, and then finally you do a preventive action. So these are the normal steps we do to find root cause finding, which can be tedious, can take more than a 1 or 2 person to do this. So it's the thing that manufacturing industry struggling back from those days itself. Now, how can AI or machine learning help? Okay, so now imagine that you have able to not to do all this thing. Means you have a product failure, and then immediately, instead of going through this whole failure analysis, identification, experimental process, which is not a bad idea. Okay, I'll come to that later. But you could immediately contain the issue and address the corrective action and go for the preventive action. So you're basically trying to streamline the process for very easy understanding of how to contain the issue. You don't really need to go through a lot of things. Now that's where AI and big data can help us. Okay, so if we streamline, it's going to be very easy. So you have a failure, you have a automated root cause finding, which is what we're going to do with the AI and big data, and then based on this, you can actually do the containment, you can do the corrective action, and then you solve the preventive action. Okay. Now, should I not do a failure analysis? Yes, you can go ahead and do it, but it can be in your own pace and depending on the importance of that particular thing. So it's not going to affect you so much or so bad. But the important point is that you'll be able to find it or contain it as fast as possible. So that's the whole idea how AI is changing. Okay. Now, one of the first thing you want to do in AI is that the data infrastructure. So I think there are a lot of work being done here. So there are a lot of ideas coming in on how the data infrastructure to be adopted. So 9-10 years ago, you had Hadoop coming into play, so it makes a lot of that easier. So there are a lot of computing power available now to how to actually want to arrange the data infrastructure. Okay, and another thing is that the way we collect information nowadays. Now, it used to be so manual, so very difficult for us to, if you want to collect certain data like temperature, pressure, current performance, and so on, you basically, dig into a database which is just dedicated to that particular machine. Or in a worst case, sometimes when you only have a display that, you need to do a manual recording. So now that basically enhanced very well with a lot of sensors that is being available nowadays. So with that, the information collection becomes much easier to be done. So that makes the whole data infrastructure much easier. And with the computing power on how to consolidate data as well. Now with that, you create a database which suits your environment. So in this case, all the information required for the production or manufacturing analysis that we plan to do. So now, what happens next? Okay, what we do now, what we do next is basically what we wanted to use this data in order to make sure the data is basically used for something that you want to identify it as. Okay, so basically what shall we do with the data? Now this is where machine learning comes into. So there are a few things you can do. Now one, I'll just summarize the whole thing, but I won't go into. So data mining. Now what type of data do we relate to this particular process? So now it used to be we had multiple process in a manufacturing environment. You have like front end processes, back end processes, you have testing and all sorts, etc., etc. Now everybody had it as a different kind of database management. So the whole idea was so difficult to integrate those data into one particular position. So what we do is that we have better tools now to data mine those things, integrate them, and then most importantly, you can actually have an accessible idea or accessible interface to actually to use this data. So we do a lot of things like classification. You have neural networking. You can actually make it automate some of the things, but it may not be something that you want to look at today. But of course, it's possible. But you also like to analyze and also improve the process. Okay. So now, like for example, in a statistical machine learning that we will look into. So basically, in a manufacturing environment, there's two types of data we use. We have a lot of attribute data that comes with the product components that being used. And then you also have variable data, which is very much related to the performance of the product itself. So now you can use both these data to actually identify the root cause. But we are more interested in attribute because one of the things that we looked at earlier was that how do you contain something? How do you contain something from making become a bigger mess? And then we can do the corrective action, and then you can prevent it, which is where it's basically related to the performance of the product itself. So now going forward, now I'll just use a simple example here, all right? It's a hard disk drive technology. Of course, it's not really being used so much as used to be. Nowadays, hard disk drive is more into servers, into cloud computing. This is where it's being used now. A lot of mobile devices goes through the memory chip. But nevertheless, the whole idea is to understand how does AI works in this particular kind of environment. Now, like in an HDD system, you have many systems going on in the place, and which is basically done by multiple components that are being used in the product itself. So if you just do a drive-through, you will know that there is a lot of things that actually drives a hard disk drive. So there are many components. So to do a failure analysis at this point is going to be very tedious because you have some hints, some performance data that tells you possible cause is something like this, and then you go to a failure analysis, and then you basically try to take it out and try to understand this. So this is one of the projects that we done was that. Now, how do I find, for example, I have a multiple combination of components being used in one particular product, and then I want to know what is the best combination and what is the least best combination. So there are many. One of the ways we employ was that to look at the data. So being how does the data being managed, right? Now you have a lot of product related data. Okay, for example, the date, time, part identification, factories that are being used for which floor. So there's a lot of data being comes here on this particular idea of analyzing a product. Now this data, I'm just putting a screen capture. Of course, this is much more longer than this, and sometimes it can reach about 2 million rows or 3 million rows. Now, but the idea is that I capture this data. So this data used to be in a different databases, like in a different environment. So the idea is that how do I put all this together into one particular place? So when I do that, and this is where it becomes very interesting. So I will be able to analyze what is exactly is the worst combination that could actually get from using such a product when I develop or do a product. Okay. So in this example, okay, so what we did was that we have like a yield dashboard, okay. Now what happens is that when you have like yield which is dropping down, hitting below what you're supposed to expect, or when that happens, right, you kind of like triggers, okay. Now when you do a triggering, basically you have a machine learning happening. So what happens is the data that are all collected earlier. Now I analyze this data. Now look at certain, if it's like attribute data, I have a different type of attribute analysis. If I have a different type of a variable, I look at a variable analysis. Now what is important here is that it gives me an idea what is the best case scenario and what is the worst case scenario. Now in a best case scenario, I wanted to maximize those combinations. Now, when the least case scenario, I wanted to reduce the combination as much as possible. So that will gives me the best idea. So to what are the need to take to build. So for example, now if I have certain best, combinations, this is what I'm going to use a lot because I have a 98% kind of success rate. But there's also, I have about 2%, 26% type of failure, which is I wanted to totally avoid. Now, gives me the idea. This is the combinations, gives me the worst kind of performance. Now, this is where I can take my time to feed more on the good combination while reducing the bad combination. And meanwhile, I can take my time to go and analyze why does the bad combination performing badly. And that way I can do my more thorough, good root cause finding, not constrained by the time. So this is how basically machine learning, AI kind of like helps you very well. So this is the mechanism, but it's not just one particular mechanism that basically helps, but there are also a lot of ways we can actually use on to trigger us better even before. So one of the things that we are working on from benchmark on this is that now we used to call this based on a Tom Cruise movie, but then it's something like now we know something goes wrong, tells you something, then we basically find something. Now, how about when something before it happens? So like a minority report, but we are not yet there, but then we are trying to look at the mechanism. Like for example, if you have there is a way to learn all these things, so the machine will be able to tell you even before you produce something that, hey, this is not a really good combination based on the performance of previous things that we've done. So now you wanted to avoid that. So the success rate there is not really that good yet, to be honest, but then we are continuously striving to make it better. Okay, so basically that's my sharing for today, right? All right, so I will pass to the MC for any Q&As.
Thank you, Mr. Venugopal, for wonderful talks. Now let's move to Q&A sessions. All the audience may leave the question in the comment sections. Wait a second. Okay. There is one question from Amni Anwar. She wants to ask, what does the combinations of performance means? Okay. There is one question from Amni Anwar.
Yeah.
She wants to ask, what does the combinations of performance means?
Okay. So
there is one question from Amni Anwar.
Yeah.
She wants to ask, what does the combinations of performance means?
Okay. So
there is one question.
Okay, so one of the things that we look at performance combination is that what gives that, for example, if you have multiple components that being used in a product, we want to know what will be the best combination that gives you a workable product. Means like, let's say if I make 10 particular product, I'm just using a number for simple example. In this 10 particular, I have a different combination, different suppliers, different parts from different countries, for example. What happens is that certain combination will give me a higher workable product. Means like 99% of the time it's working. A certain combination will just give me about 80% of the product, functionality of the product. So now what I want to do is that I wanted to maximize the product which is have a higher combination rate and avoid the combination which is much more poorer in performance.
Okay, thank you. Let's wait for another questions. Okay, the second question is from Eddie. In terms of times, how much would company be able to save and developing AI? How is this as compared to the cost needed?
Okay, so now, that's a good question, very good question. We've been struggling to answer this a very long time ago itself, because those days, about a few years ago, even not to say those days, not like 30 years ago, it's about 5-6 years ago itself. The cost of developing machine learning is it's kind of like huge in the investment. It's going to take a big chunk of it, and then we have to justify on the savings based on, like what I mentioned, is that how many bad combination we are making and how good combination we are able to make, and then but by avoiding the bad combination, how much money we are actually saving. But now, seeing that in the last 5 to 10 years, cloud computing have been developing very well. So the cost of building, for you to have infrastructure, for you to have your own server, much reduced. So in that sense, you don't really need so much. I would say about 30 to 40% less investment needed now compared to what we were doing back then. Back then we were heavily investing on the servers, on the machines, and then building a logarithm on top of that to basically to do these AI functions. But to look at from the cost perspective, right? Depending on what exactly we wanted to implement, like this particular example that I mentioned to you, could be easily done in less than 20 to 30 RM for now, which used to take us more than that, more 3 or 4 times double that, about a few hundred thousands, which is significant now. So that's when I mentioned to you how easy is it now. You can actually dwell on it. You can even build something simpler in the sense, like if you want to do a experimental line in the lab, which could be done as well. It's not so expensive as used to be.
Okay, thank you. We're still open for the question. And then, okay, there's one from Arif Rahimin. In Malaysia, does big data in manufacturing is in big demand by the industry?
Okay, a lot of industries are moving towards it because another way of, like I mentioned, some of these activities require a big manpower to do it. So employing such, not just this particular example, but any other examples that could reduce the effort in terms of human, that it's basically very much in demand right now, especially when we consider, there's two things happening nowadays in Malaysia. If we talk about it, one, we are moving away from the labor intensive kind of model, which is where we were very much dependent on cheap labor, which is happening right now. Another thing is that we also are moving away from the low tech manufacturing towards high tech manufacturing. So these two basically drives. It's not to say we are adding more clients. Even companies are developing talent pool, developing their own machine learning AI teams by themselves itself. Right. Thank you, Arif.
Next question from Azri Azmi. Do you know what is the rate of AI adoption in manufacturing companies in Malaysia? How is it compared to the C countries?
I don't really have, to be honest, I don't really have the numbers. But what I could say is that due to our nature, our unique nature in Southeast Asia is that we are one of the biggest semiconducting manufacturing countries outside China and Taiwan. So nobody else comes closer to us there. So on that particular industry related to semiconductors as well, not just manufacturing semiconductors, but manufacturing semiconductor machines, etc. Service are moving very much towards AI. There are also other significant, industries, I will say, like, for example, food manufacturing. Because of the intensity of the current environment, right? There's a lot of AI adoption going on there as well. Thank you, Azri.
There is one question also from Amni Anwar. What is the problem often found when trying to do machine learning in manufacturing? Any example on the product that are being analyzed according to your experience?
Okay, the biggest challenge is that we have a very much of a legacy machines, equipments in manufacturing. Some can be like 20 years, 30 years old, which are still in use. Not to say they are bad; they are still functioning very well. But the difficulty comes in terms of like building AI interfaces, uh, integrating with sensors. So that was the biggest challenge to do that. Another thing is that every product is going to be very unique. So there is no one set algorithm for all type of analysis. So there's a lot of times we have to go back and learn those processes step by step to understand the product, understand the performance values, understand the product requirements to be able to identify it accordingly. Now, the similar, since you asked about example, right? Now, we employed something similar in manufacturing environment very much, for the last 5 6 years. And recently, I can't really name the client, but I could just put a hint. They are the biggest social media network in the world. So they were kind of like wanted to do content moderation. Basically, they wanted to remove a lot of unwanted postings in the social media, for example. So one of the way they were very much struggling with the local languages. In English it's kind of easy because they develop a very advanced AI tool. But if you take regional language like Southeast Asia, Indonesian language, even there's one language they have like thousands of dialects. So we were using similar type of algorithm to actually, when you do content moderation from humans were doing this thing, but then one of the things that we were experiencing with human when you do the content model, when they look at un, un- not really very good images or posting in social media, it gives them a very emotional, very bad for the psychology of the moderator. So they wanted to do a automate some of this stuff, and that's where we use something very similar, something like a combination study, when you do a certain combination, certain language, certain region, certain environment, the error will be higher, and certain areas where the certain combination gives you a better results. So these are the examples we use quite often. There are a lot of other industries. Of course, I'm from manufacturing R&D previously, but then moving forward, right, there are a lot of other industries, right, taking this particular approach to solve their daily problems.
Thank you, Mr. Venugopal, for wonderful talks. So,
thank you.
And thank you for the audience for the question. I think we need to take a break. So let's move to the WAI talk session after the break. Thank you.
Thank you.
Minggu depan adalah hari yang penting buatku. Tapi, alah aku lambat.
Masuk cepat.
Aku akan buktikan pada semua orang program aku yang terhebat.
Giliran awak, Hakim. Hakim, jumpa saya di ofis. Saya nak awak siapkan projek awak. Now.
Hello.
Habiskan. Dana Hakim, teruskan usaha.
Kadang-kadang kita tidak sedar ramai yang memimpin kita sehingga berjaya. Bakat dan potensi dalam diri kita sebenarnya lebih jelas di mata orang lain. Assalamualaikum.
Hi, welcome back. So we are waiting for the Mr. Venugopal because there is one more question. Okay, I think there is. Okay. Sorry. Hello, Mr. Venugopal.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, there is one more question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. From LED, how you deal with data integration issue in manufacturing analytics?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Okay. To answer how to deal with the data integration issue, okay, there are many different type of things, tools that can be used. One of the easiest one will be SQL. If you use SQL programming, there are other tools as well like Hadoop. Um, we can use that, which is a freeware as well. There are also other proprietary softwares available in systems available like SaaS is the leading the field in in a non-freeware kind of like data management system. But there are other systems that you can definitely use as well. So it's not as one fit in size tools that's available, but any other tools that fits your purpose that we can be done. They are even a simple if you are looking at the academic point of view is like you can even use Python, which is a good integration tool. Python, but many libraries is where you can actually integrate data. So they are not limited to one. There are many ways you can do this.
Okay, thank you. There is also question from Azizul Ghaffar. Are there any issue with data sharing, especially in privacy, since companies mostly have confidential data that they do not wish to share? Does this hinders big data analysis?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, companies are quite private and confidential about the data, but when you are part of the organization, I think there's not much issue on that to actually to do the analysis. Like us, we do work with quite a number of organizations where we do have like NDAs, for example, shared with them in terms of like data sharing. But of course, in terms of like competitions nowadays, right? There are there are extra precautions coming into place. But then with certain acknowledgement, let's say if you're going to do certain projects or something, you can always approach them, and I think they are willing to share to a certain extent without jeopardizing their privacy policy.
Okay. Next question is, if a students want to venture in AI for manufacturing, will I need an engineering degree or computer science or AI degree?
Okay, that's a good question actually. Now, there's no one particular type of you can be dimensionary, no issue on that. If you're good in programming and if you're good in engineering, fine. But very rarely, someone can be a master of all those things. But you can, like for me, I'm from an engineering background as well, so I picked up the computing part of it, the programming part on as long as I go. But I will still not call myself as a programmer because I'm not. I'm not a one. I'm not. I would not be. Would be a competent programmer like a programmer who did computer science, very detailed computer science. I do understand certain things here and there. So in AI, there's a misconceptions that when you are like data scientist or data scientists now become very very common. But the thing about data scientists is that people not really look at one particular field. There's no data scientist who knows to do everything. There are data scientists who are good at statistics. There are data scientists who are good at engineering knowledge. There are data scientists who are good at programming. So as your career develops, you can always pick up certain things along the way.
Okay. Okay, next question is what set of skill would company look at when hiring grads to work as an AI specialist? Any specific software or tools they need to know?
There is not. Okay. I would say. Okay. A lot of things are being done. Not to say in industry in general. Python, R will be a good tool to explore. But in another thing is that you also would like to look at, getting more on statistical part of it. So now we realize that when we hire people or when we work with young people, there because of the hype created outside there are a lot of people are hands-on with Python and all this programming language, but being statistics being not a very likable subjects in school and also in university, nobody really cares much about it. But then a lot of these things that the machine learning a logarithm, while there is a programming context required, but the knowledge goes to how does the statistics works. So that's where I will say, pick up that, you may not like statistics then, but there are a lot of stuffs that happening now that makes it very relevant.
Okay, thank you. And next question is from LAD. What is your advice to the young generation out there to join this AI community?
Okay, I wouldn't force anyone to go pick it up, but if your interest, in these things, okay, these are things that we mentioned, we talked about today. It is something that you like to do. Definitely explore further. These things. When I was a student, this thing doesn't exist. There was no such thing as AI or machine learning, but it developed in such a way. So as you move on, there are things that will come up, new things being explored. So just keep up with your interest. That's what my best advice would be.
Okay. I think that's all from the question. I think that's all. Thank you, Mr. Vedagopal, for the uh, for the talk. So let's move. I think that's all. Okay.
Oh, thank you
So
very
let's
much,
move.
Diana, for hosting this, and thank you very much for all the participants. Okay.
Okay, thank you for again Mr. Vedagopal to all audience for the question. Now we don't stop here. Let's move to the next Y Talk sessions. For this Y Talk 5 session is about sustainable smart city. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Gayatri Korodasamy as Chief Technology Officer, who is constantly seeking to develop and broaden her business and technical acumen. Gayatri has over 15 years of experience in the ICT industry with extensive experience in the implementation and maintenance of smart city solutions within the South African municipal sector. Her other area expertise are project management, development methodology, business analysis and design, and development of various software applications utilizing the latest technologies. So without further ado, we may request Mrs. Gayatri to deliver her talk.
I'm sorry, madam. You need to unmute your mic. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Thank you, MC. Greetings, everyone. Thank you, Women in AI Malaysia chapter, for providing me with this great opportunity to talk in this summit. Without further ado, let me get into this topic. Thank you. Are you able to see the screen? Okay, today I will be talking about sustainable smart cities. Before getting into this topic, I would like to give a brief introduction about myself and how I got into the smart city solutions. In 2003, I completed my bachelor's in computer hardware and software engineering from India. And in 2005, I completed my master's in software engineering from India as well. After that, I performed various roles such as software engineer and team lead roles in various companies. During this time, I worked for a client for eThekwini Metro Municipality, which is based in Durban, South Africa. So during this period, we developed a software application which addressed the service delivery issues within the city. So this organization is about 54 billion rand, which roughly comes around 3 billion euro. The organization size I'm talking about, the city I'm talking about. So this provided insights for our company to develop the smart city applications, which can address the service delivery issues within the citizen-focused and within the customer care field. So that is from then I have been involved in developing smart city applications. I also have an extensive experience in the project management methodologies, business analysis, design, and development of various smart city applications. In between, I also completed an executive education on digital strategy for business from Columbia Business School in 2018. I also completed my postgraduate diploma in business administration and my MBA from University of Pretoria, South Africa last year. Currently, I work as Chief Technology Officer in Analog, an IT company based in Durban, South Africa. Our focus is mainly on development, implementation, and maintenance of smart city solutions, with a special focus on service delivery and customer care within the South African municipal sector. My interest in smart cities has led me do my MBA research on various drivers and barriers for smart city development within the developing countries, for which I also achieved a distinction in my dissertation. The findings of this research, I will be talking about it a few slides later in this presentation as well. So our agenda today will focus on 4 aspects. First, I will be providing the brief background of sustainable smart cities, its definition and dimensions, and how it is related to United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 11. After that, I will be moving into various smart city initiatives, both from developed and developing countries. After that, I will also discuss about my research findings about the drivers and barriers of smart city development within the developing countries. Finally, I will also discuss about the various roles of artificial intelligence in smart cities development. So let's look at what is the background of sustainable smart cities and how it is important to all of us. So the United Nations in 2015, they developed a set of global goals, which acts as the blueprint to achieve a prosperous and sustainable future for everybody. Today, I will be focusing on the SDG Goal 11. So what does this Goal 11 states? It states that we need to make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Why? Because half of world population, which is about 3.5 billion people, live in cities today. And about the UN also has projected that about 5 billion people will be living in cities by 2030 and about 6.5 billion people by 2050. So this unprecedented growth of cities has led to a term called megacity. So what does megacity means? It means a city which includes a population of about 10 million people or more. So this boom in megacities, especially in the developing world, has caused slums to become a significant feature in the urban life. As you can see, the share of urban population who are living in slums is about 24% in 2018. So all these facts and figures are taken from United Nations Sustainable Development Goals website. So what is the COVID-19 implication of this urbanization? Over 90% of COVID-19 cases are in urban areas. So you can see the magnitude of the urbanization that's happening all over the world. Not only these issues, but also the access to the public transport, access to the open public spaces, and the air pollution. All three also has motivated United Nations to come up with this goal. What about public transport? Public transport is very important. Convenient access to public transport means it promotes cities' productivity and health. So, reliable, accessible, and affordable public transport, it reduces the pollution and also it promotes the productivity and the inclusion of the urbanization. As you can see, only half of the world's urban population has convenient access, which is about 500 to 1,000 meters distance to public transport. Not only that, many cities has actually approved the informal transport systems, which means that it doesn't actually cater for the regularity and safety of the people. So what about open public spaces? Open public spaces are very important for the informal economy. They do businesses in open spaces. Their livelihood is dependent on these open public spaces. Again, only 47% of population live within 400 meters walking distance to open public spaces. Air pollution is another major issue. Air pollution is measured with the air quality index, which goes from 0 to 50, 51 to 100, 100 to 150, and above 150. If the air quality index has gone above 150, it is dangerous for people to live in the cities. It's gone above 100, it is somewhat dangerous, and 0 to 50 is green, which means it's safer. Currently, I think city Hotan got 110 as the air quality index, which makes it in the red zone, which is somewhat dangerous and poses some kind of health effects for the citizens of the city. So this air pollution has caused about 4.2 million premature deaths in 2016. That is a huge amount. What are the major causes of this air pollution in cities? It's the transportation, industrialization, the energy consumption. All these causes the air pollution to go into a severe, the air quality index about 150. So as you can see, all these issues causes more damage to the world. So that is why United Nations has come up with this goal, which we need to make these cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So what are the targets of the SDG Goal 11? So some of the targets are increasing investment in the public transport, making the transport safe and affordable, providing access to the safe and inclusive green public spaces, improving urban planning and management by including the citizens in the decision making, providing safe and affordable housing, affordable and sustainable transport systems, protecting the world's cultural and natural heritage, reducing the adverse effects of the natural disasters, and reducing the environmental impacts of the cities. So how do we achieve these goals? How do we achieve these targets? By one way to achieve this is through developing sustainable smart cities. United Nations Economic Commission of Europe, together with International Telecommunication Union, has come up with a definition for sustainable smart city. A sustainable smart city is an innovative city which uses technologies such as ICTs and other means to improve the quality of life, to improve the efficiency of urban operation and services. When they say efficiency of urban operation and services, they are talking about the governance, the service delivery, cities' competitiveness. Cities' competitiveness is very useful to attract the foreign investment into the city, while ensuring that it meets the needs of present and future generations with respect to various aspects of the city, such as economic factors, social factors, environmental factors, and cultural factors. As you can see, this definition talks exactly about all the issues. It targets all the issues that we discussed in the last slide. So, what are the major dimensions on which a smart city should be built on? Even though there are many dimensions that academics has come up with, these six plays major role in any smart city. Economy, people, governance, mobility, environment, and living. So smart economy is about driving innovation through partnerships between businesses, between citizens, creating innovation teams, involving research units. It focuses about innovation and innovative business models. It supports sustainable economic competitiveness. It promotes interconnection between local and global economic ecosystems. Some of the examples that you can think about smart economy is creating sustainable entrepreneurship, creating circular economy. The next dimension is smart people. Smart people is about creating and utilizing the smart city solutions. Creating the smart city solutions is one aspect of smart city, but if the residents of the city is not willing to utilize the smart city solutions, then it will become meaningless. So this smart people refers to a more inclusive society. It offers equal treatment to everyone by catering each and every individual's needs. It's about improving the knowledge management. It's about improving the access to the education. It's about willingness of the residents of the city to utilize the smart city solutions. Next dimension is smart governance. It's about ensuring transparency in the governance systems. The municipalities, the local government, they need to be transparent to the people on what basis they are making the decisions. It's about making the public actions, that is the services to the citizens, more open and transparent. So how do we achieve this? It's by integrating all the stakeholders concerned, like public entities, private entities, citizens. Everybody needs to be involved in the decision making. We can also encourage the citizen to provide their input on the decision making. Citizens' participation by utilizing different technologies such as big data technologies and artificial intelligence. Okay, let's move on to the next dimension, which is smart mobility. Smart mobility is about developing clean public transport. And the technology, the public transport need to be also sustainable. It has to actually cater for all different users of the city, not only the residents of the city. It has to cater for the workers. It has to cater for the tourists. So it has to use the modern and sustainable transport systems. The next dimension is smart environment. It's about promoting a sustainable and green economy. It's about managing the resources efficiently. It's about producing green and sustainable renewable energy sources. It's about utilizing the more sustainable way to produce the food. It's about using the sustainable waste to optimize various resources such as energy, air, water, waste, etc. One of the examples that we can think about is the urban agriculture. So the last aspect of the last dimension of the smart cities is smart living. It's about improving the citizens' quality of life. The factors that is under the quality of life are factors such as safety, social cohesion, attracting the tourists, etc., providing good quality healthcare system. Now that we know that what is the definition and why the sustainable smart city is needed, and what are the different dimensions that a smart city can be built on, let's look at various smart city initiatives around the globe. The first and foremost city that I will be talking about is Singapore, because it ranks first in the IMD Smart City Index. So this IMD Smart City Index considers various aspects such as the quality of life, healthcare system, what a city can offer to make their citizens prosperous and great. So that's what the Smart City Index talks about. So Singapore has ranked first for past few years. Singapore's vision is to become world's first smart nation. It's not talking about smart city or smart community, it's talking about smart nation. So they have actually come up with various smart city initiatives, some of which we will discuss here. They have many initiatives which caters for health, safety, mobility, digital government, urban living, etc. So in terms of the health, they have remote monitoring devices which monitors the elderly patients. You don't need to be within the city, but you will be monitored by your healthcare professionals remotely wherever you are in the world. They also have developed a digital service platform, which is a web portal called Health Hub, where all the Singaporeans can log in and they can access their medical record wherever they are in the world. Not only that, they also utilize the robotics in the healthcare system. They also have a telehealth, which is teleconsulting of the healthcare professional provide telecommunication. Utilizing the telecommunication, they provide the diagnosis. Not only that, in 2015, I think Singapore has come up with something called the National Steps Challenge, where the participants who are participating in this challenge, they will be provided with a device, and which will track their steps, and they can log in their food calories, their intakes, everything. So this will give the healthcare professionals better idea of how the physical activity of each and every participant is. Not only that, in terms of safety, they have 500,000 police surveillance cameras and web-based police portals wherein Singaporeans can log in and they can log the crime on this portal. So in terms of smart mobility solutions, they have smart and connected traffic solutions, which is like an adaptive traffic signal. So the traffic signal changes based on the traffic levels. So to ensure that there is a smooth flow of traffic. They also have stationless shared bicycles, mobile or bike, where you can actually book the bicycles through the app, and you will be able to lock and unlock it through the QR code. And they also have electric carpooling service. Unlike the traditional carpooling service, you can book in the car anytime, wherever you want to pick up, you can pick it up and drop it off. This is again utilizing the QR code and utilizing the mobile apps. Their transit networks is highly efficient, affordable, accessible, and sustainable. When I say this, they have stringent policies to discourage the car usage. So this is to reduce the air pollution. They also have contactless fare payments, where it is like a credit card. You just top up the amount and you can utilize to pay for your transport, whether it's bus, train, anything. In terms of the administrative services, they have many digital service platforms. They have something called SingPass, which is a national digital identity portal. So this portal is utilized to access 64 government services through a web portal, and you don't need to log in each and every for each and every service through a different username and password. You can utilize the SingPass and you can access the digital services. They have also come up with Pay Now, which is a interoperable e-payment approach, which is used by all Singapore banks. They also have this Moments of Life, which is the integration of all government services on one platform. They also have Services One app, wherein you can utilize this app to log any queries related to their digital services. In terms of the urban living, they are encouraging the construction companies to come up with the smart towns. So any town that will be any development project that they are building will be smart. They are also doing a trial of automated meter reading for the electricity. And they also have been using drones to identify the dengue hotspots. Apart from that, they have many apps for startups and governance. So obviously, Singapore ranks first in the Smart City Index. So the next city I will be talking about is Dubai. As you can see in the picture in the right side, Dubai has a vision of becoming Smart Dubai in 2021, which their vision is to envision a city where all their resources are optimized for their maximum efficiency. Their services are integrated into the people's daily life. They want to protect their people and the information and create some most enriched life and business experience possible for all. So what are the different initiatives that they have come up with? One main initiative they have come up with in 2020 is 100% paperless stamp. So their vision is by 2021, by in December 2021, they want to eliminate all the paperwork from the government services. So everything is going digital, which means that they are going to save about 1 million paperwork per year in terms of the government services. Services One Center is like a one center shop solution, which have different bundles for the digital government services. Currently, they have 3 bundles, which is wedding bundle, which is about obtaining the marriage certificates, about providing the paperwork for the wedding. They also have new baby bundle, which is about the issuing the birth certificates, and they also have business bundles, which is about creating businesses. The different projects and initiatives in support of the smart city or RFID. This is radio frequency identification used in the toll. They also have smart NOL card, which is to make online payment. For RTA e-wallet is about making online payment, but NOL card is similar to the Singapore's contactless payment. So it's like a credit card which you can utilize to pay for the transport services. Dubai Now app is similar to the Singapore Service One app, where all the government services are provided on a mobile app. You can log the queries, you can pay for all the different services such as electricity, water, etc. They also have, similar to the Singapore, they also have smart car rental services. They have come up with this Dubai Data Initiative, which is utilizing the big data and artificial intelligence. They analyze various data that they are receiving from the citizens to give a better quality of life to the citizens. They got something called Makani, which is a unique addressing system for Dubai. So in this one, in this Makani, there is a 10-digit unique identification number, which is provided for each and every building in Dubai. Through this identification number, they can search in Google. They also have happiness meter, which measures the happiness of the citizens and residents. So the next one we will be talking about is Oslo. Oslo is awarded the European Green Capital 2019 title by the European Commission. So as you can see, their focus is to reduce the carbon dioxide emission and go more green and sustainable. They are also called the electric vehicle capital of the globe because they focus on manufacturing, producing more electric cars rather than the traditional type cars. They have come up with something called Oslo Toll Ring. So as you can see, they have introduced this in 1990s, which is way more than smart city concept has evolved. So this automated toll system, it charges the vehicles based on the time that they are passing through this toll road, toll, or the fuel type of the vehicles. For example, it is more expensive when the vehicles pass through the rush hours, such as like morning 6:30 to 9 o'clock or afternoon 3 to 5 p.m. Then the vehicles are charged more. They are also charged more if the fuel type of the vehicle is like normal diesel and petrol. It is cheaper for the electric cars, and it is actually free for the hydrogen-driven cars. So they utilize this toll fees to generate the revenues, which then part finance their smart city mobility programs. They also have this initiative called Future Build. Future Build is a 10-year program which involves setting up 50 buildings and development projects. In order for a project to be approved by Future Build, it has to reduce the carbon dioxide emission by 50%. So some of the examples are 800 student John Slater School. So it utilizes, it doesn't provide car parking. It provides more of parking for the bicycles. Same with Gulag Tag as well. So these development projects, they actually utilize the renewable energy sources for their electricity. So they also encourage public-private partnerships. They have a tool called Smart Oslo Accelerator, which comes up often with the contest called Smart Oslo Pitch, wherein the entrepreneurs and the startups, businesses, they can pitch in their initiatives to cut down their carbon dioxide emission or to come up with the smart city type technologies. One of the example that they have come up with using the smart Oslo pitch is the trenchless installation of water pipes. This trenchless installation has been widely used by the oil industries. They also encourage fossil fuel-free construction. We all know fossil is used for the energy production, to produce the electricity. But a lot of fossils are also used in the construction projects, like in the machineries that they utilize to dig the building. So all these are actually catering for the carbon dioxide emissions. So they are motivating the construction companies to utilize the biodiesel, or the renewable energy sources. Their waste management legacy goes to about 1997. So they have encouraged the residents of the city to separate the waste based on the type of the garbage. So food, plastic, glass, and metal. Their food waste goes into becomes the biofertilizer for many farms, and it also produces the biofuel which can run 150 buses per year. Obviously, their plastic waste goes into a plastic recycling industry, and it gets into again and again it will be recycling. So the next city we will be seeing is Boston. Boston is one of the first to experiment smart city initiatives. So they have smart streets, which has the AI-enabled cameras and sensors. They learn more about how people navigate, and they adjust the traffic signals, similar to Singapore, based on the traffic level. They are also a leader in the Global Vision Zero initiative, which this initiative is to end fatal and serious traffic crashes that happens in the city's streets. Their main focus is participatory urbanism. I think we spoke about this in one of the smart city dimensions. So they have come up with different initiatives. One of them is Citizens Connect. Citizens Connect, the residents report the non-emergency complaints, emergency issues with the city using a mobile app, using the smartphone, which then goes to their workforce management system. And then in turn, it will then go into the city hall to address these issues. They have something called Community Planet. Community Planet is like a game that makes the planning playful. So the residents of the city gets involved into this game to earn points. By participating in this, they earn points, and these points are used to advocate their ideas of how they see the community to be in the future. They also have initiated something called Innovation District Welcome Home Challenge, which encourages the startups and businesses to open up their business in the Innovation District, for which if they pitch in, and if the Innovation District, the city of Boston, likes this initiative, then they will award them with $25,000 for them to open up the business in this Innovation District. They also have participatory Chinatown. This Chinatown is a 46-acre developmental project, which every 10 years they provide this master planning. So similar to the community planets, the residents can then participate in this participatory Chinatown game, and they provide their ideas. Once their ideas are chosen, then they are called in for the meetings with the city of Boston. So the final city I will be talking about is Malaysia. Malaysia has come up with this Malaysian Smart City Framework, which have 6 aspects to it. Firstly, it has come up with different urban challenges that Malaysia is aiming to reduce through the Smart City Framework. Then they have 16 policies on which the smart city will be developed in Malaysia. Then they have 36 strategies on how to implement these policies and how to develop the smart cities. Under each strategy, there are different initiatives, and they also have 92 indicators which can measure the smart cities development. And they also have certain benchmarks which they take the global best practices and the good examples they take from all over the world for their reference and benchmarking. One of the projects that they are embarking is Smart City Iskandar, Malaysia. So this Iskandar is a proposed city which is in the southern tip of Malaysia, which has a vision for a sustainable and socially diverse city. So it's a 3 times the size of Singapore, and they also trying to attract about 3 million residents by 2025 by promising them sustainable energy, reduced pollution, and better IoT technologies, and better transport and housing, recreational areas, etc. The recent development is Malaysia and UK has collaborated in smart city development. They have come up with a smart city handbook, which can be then referred by the Malaysian government to develop the smart cities. As some of, I think Kuala Lumpur is number 54 in the IMD Smart City Index. So it's one of the city that has actually come up with many initiatives. Other cities are Johor, Putrajaya, Penang, and Kota Kinabalu. They also have come up with various smart city initiatives. Cyberjaya and Putrajaya has come up with the 5G technologies, and they also have come up with initiatives to do the automated meter reading. During my research, I also researched on other developing countries such as India and South Africa. Even though they have many smart city initiatives planned and they have the smart city vision or mission, they really haven't taken off the ground. Hence, my research on what are the drivers and barriers for the smart city development in the developing countries. So let's look at some of the drivers I have identified. The first and foremost driver, the factor that drives the drives the smart city solution in the developing countries is efficient service delivery. So they are talking about the water, electricity, the basic services. Citizens want efficient service delivery. Other factors such as improved citizens' quality of life. They want to reduce the cost of living, sustainable living, attracting the foreign investment to the cities, saving the natural resources, making it ease of use for millennials, efficient citizen management, improving infrastructure, better urban planning, economic competitiveness. These are some of the factors that is driving the smart city developments within the developing countries. Even though all these drivers are driving the smart city solutions, still the developing countries are lagging behind in the smart city developments. So my research finding also identified some of the factors that act as barriers for the smart city development. So I categorized them into 10 different categories. Organizational barriers, of course, plays major role. Organizational barriers are something related to the local government, and followed by economical factors, skills and competency, etc. So these are the different barriers. I will not be talking into each and every factor. One of the important barriers that came across on multiple times in my research is the municipal departments work in silos. When I refer to municipal departments, it's the local government I'm talking about. So the different departments within the local government, they work in silos. Say they really don't talk to each other, so they are not really working together to achieve the vision of the city or vision of the local government. Also, the smart city solution is more about providing intangible benefits like improving the citizens' quality of life. So the policymakers and leaders are not willing to see these intangible benefits. They want to see something like financial cost benefits to the city. So they are not prioritizing these smart city projects. Smart city projects within their local governments. There is also a lack of a unified smart city vision and mission, like how we saw Singapore has a vision and mission for their country. So there is a lack of that vision or mission statement in many developing countries. Some of the economic barriers are lack of funding, because the smart city technologies come with high cost. So there is not enough funding by the local government to fund these projects. There are also many skills and competency barriers, so leaders' lack of understanding and connection to the smart city concept. There are also many governance barriers such as corruption, poor alignment between national, provincial, and local governments. And there are different barriers related to socio-economic barriers, technological barriers, political barriers, whereas there is lack of political buy-in, social cultural barriers, which talks about more of citizens. Citizens are resistant to change. They are unwilling to pay for the municipal services, which in turn then affects the revenue generation capability of the local government. Then psychological barriers, leaders resistant to change. Not only citizens are resistant to change, leaders are also resistant to change. And there are some legal and ethical barriers as well. So I have come up with this DBRB framework, which is drivers, barriers, benefits, recommendations, and benefits. The bottom of this DBRB framework is the different stakeholders, such as government, smart cities providers, and citizens. So within this stakeholders community, there are different barriers, which we spoke about, different 10 categories of barriers. But how do we actually overcome these barriers? Through some of the recommendations that have come up with in my research, like ensuring there are strict laws to stamp out the corruption, increasing the awareness and education of smart city, appointing qualified leaders. So through this, you can overcome barriers. Not only that, the drivers that we discussed actually drive the development of smart city technologies, products, solutions, services. So when these technologies, products, solutions, and services are applied to the major sectors, such as core service delivery departments, such as water and electricity, citizen safety and security sector, health sector, communication and connectivity sector, so then government and citizens can reap the benefits of smart city solutions, such as effective and efficient service delivery, citizen safety and security, improved communication between government and the citizens, citizens improved access to the local government. So these are the major benefits that citizens can reap through the smart city technologies, products, and solutions. So next, we will talk about the different roles that AI can play in the development of smart cities. When we talk about smart cities, we are talking about huge number of data, right? Because there are many different applications, so which then provides a huge amount of data. And these huge amount of data are not in a format that can be combined together. That is where this big data and artificial intelligence are interlinked. So artificial intelligence can utilize this big data and generate some data predictions and cost-effective solutions to fuel these smart city technologies. So what is one of the use case of AI in the smart city solutions? Security camera and surveillance system. So the AI-enabled cameras and sensors can be utilized to enhance the security level in the city's neighborhood. They can recognize the people, their faces, and track the unusual activities going on in the restricted areas. They can track the movement in the register of all the registered vehicles, and they can stop the vehicles that are not registered to enter into the restricted area. They can also monitor the crowd density. They can also monitor the cleanliness of the public spaces without any manual intervention. Another potential use of AI is vehicle parking and traffic management system. Imagine you are driving into the city and you know exactly where to park because there is an empty car parking that pops onto your mobile app. That is what UI can be used for. Utilizing the road surface sensors or CCTV cameras, we can then create real-time parking and traffic maps, which then will find an empty space for the parking, or we can move smoothly in the traffic, like similar to the Singapore and Dubai, Boston. So they have this AI-driven traffic signals, which then ensures the smooth traffic. They also can collect the real-time data vehicles on the road. They can send it to the control center. Then again, it can adjust the traffic signal timings to ensure the smooth flow of vehicles. Another potential use of AI is the autonomous flying objects for aerial view monitoring. I think we spoke about the drones being used in Singapore for identifying the dengue spots. So this AI-enabled drones, they can monitor the inner city and the houses where human cannot get into. They can also provide the real-time visuals of the different locations. They can help tracking humans. They can help monitoring the traffic movements because they provide the 2D aerial view of the images, which can then be utilized by the security departments and crime squad. Imagine the police has all the information about the criminals, where they are hiding and their movement. So this way it can help the crime squad and security departments as well. Another potential use is the face detection cameras and movements for public safety. So the AI, when it is used in the face recognition technology, it can detect the different people. It can then match to the database, the human faces to the database. Then it can reveal the personal identity. So this can ensure smooth, secure authentication. It can trace its identity and unauthenticate the person entering the cities, societies, and other restricted areas. Another potential use is smart waste management and disposal system. So the AI-enabled cameras can detect the trash that is thrown on the street and also can detect the type of the garbage for the categorization. The AI-enabled sensors on the waste bins can then notify the authorities. So this will reduce the operational cost because it will eliminate the unnecessary pickups. So the pickups can be done only when the waste bins are full. It can also provide smart routing, dynamic collection routes and schedules. The final use of AI is the better governance and planning management. So when AI and machine learning techniques are used in the urban planning, they can map the historical data. They can generate some crucial insights on how the city has developed in the past so many years. They can use the satellite imagery and aerial view, and they can analyze the satellite images. They can adjust the formation based on the changing data. They can identify the areas which are prone to calamities like flooding and earthquakes and storms. So this real-time and the historical data can then continuously be monitored to enable better governance. So having discussed all these technology and different smart city initiatives, what you as a responsible citizen can do to achieve a sustainable life, a prosperous life, you need to take an active interest in the governance and management of your city. You need to advocate for the kind of city that you believe you need. You need to develop a vision for your building, your street, your neighborhood, your city, your country, and your world. You need to think about these questions. Are there enough jobs? Can your children walk to school safely? Can you walk with your family at night? How safe are you? How far is the nearest public transport? What is the air quality like? How can you reduce the air pollution? What is your shared public spaces like? So the better the conditions you create in your community, the greater the effect on quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Galaturi, for sharing with us. Now let's move to Q&A sessions. Okay, so from the first question from Amira Sarah, the question is, does smart city also cover our health data and share it among hospitals and clinics? Or does smart city can access our personal data like from our phones?
No. So this is where the different acts, the data privacy acts comes into the place. So Europe is very, very stringent about the data policies. So the smart city will only cover the data, only include the data that you provide, you agree to share with the government. So it does not access your personal data from phones unless you provide them the access.
Okay, thank you. For next question is from Zahira Zul. She asks about, are the smart city initiative only applicable to developed countries? Also, which initiatives are more suitable for low-income countries?
Okay, smart city initiatives they are for all type of countries. It doesn't need to be developed countries. Developed countries has come up with smart city initiatives because they have more funding and they have more GDP, the GDP growth. But the initiatives that the low income countries can start with is providing the basic services to the people like water and electricity. As I have noted in my slide, there are slums, about 24% slums in the developing countries, which means that these slums, as you know, that they won't have like basic services such as electricity and water. So the low income countries must start now providing the people with the basic access, and then they need to move phase by phase.
Okay, next question is from Arif Rahimin. He asked, hi madam, you have mentioned all the smart city dimensions. Putrajaya and Melaka have tried to transition into a smart city but failed. My question is, in your opinion, to transition into smart city, does it need to change phase by phase or just instantly transition into one?
You are right. It has to change phase by phase because there is no one solution to make a city smart. So it has different smart city initiatives. Um, as much as you are saying that Putrajaya and Melaka have tried to transition into smart city but failed, uh, in my opinion, there is no failure for smart city. They have actually taken this step. Maybe it could be a baby step, but in the future, with the 5G technologies and different smart city technologies, it would achieve a status of smart city. So that is why we covered the barriers and drivers in my research findings, and by applying the major recommendations of these barriers, one can actually convert their city into a smart city.
Okay, thank you. And next question is from BT Tech Tips. Does connection speed matter in the developing smart cities? If so, what is the alternative way for countries that have slow connection speed?
Yes, speed does matter in developing smart cities because everything is connected. So internet connectivity does matter, but it don't need to be high speed because most of these smart city technologies, they are developed with taking into account that it should not be using the high speed connectivity.
Okay, thank you. And next is from Aurelia. She asked, Doctor, which do you think should the government give priority to, improvement of the life of low-income residents around the country, or build a smart city focusing only on the developing states?
As I spoke earlier, it should be phased approach. So definitely, they have to provide the priority to improvement of the lives of low-income residents because that is no go. But building a smart city will also then improving the lives of low-income residents. So it is not this or that. The smart city is not only for the wealthy people; it also for the low-income residents.
Okay, next, what are the ups and downs of your opinions?
Sorry, I'm not getting the question. What are the ups and downs of my opinion on what?
Maybe can you share about like about the sustainable cities?
Yeah, sustainable smart cities. There are ups and downs because the ups could be it will improve the quality of life. It does actually provide many benefits. The downs could be something like you are sharing your personal data in order to make this city smart. But in my opinion, the benefits actually overrule the downs, the drawbacks of the smart city.
Okay, thank you. And next is from Rusli Lee. One of the component of Smart City Malaysia is smart people. What are the initiatives that have been done or planned to ensure that Malaysia is at par with the global urban development trends?
Actually, when I researched, I saw Kuala Lumpur has been in number 54 in the Smart City Index, which means that it has to consider the people aspect of the smart city as well. In my opinion, okay, I'm not really, I haven't done extensive research on Malaysian smart cities, but in my opinion, they are considering initiatives such as including the people in Kuala Lumpur. I think they have actually taken an initiative wherein the automated meter reading, which is about bringing your data to them. But also, I think the various initiatives such as the Utopia, the Iskander, they're also talking about they are giving priorities to your needs like sustainability and reducing the air pollution. So it doesn't talk directly from the people to the government, but it does actually caters for the different needs of the residents of the city.
Okay, thank you. And next is from Faroza Amira. She asked about what is the main challenge in building smart city? What is the main criteria to call a city as a smart city? Is it using AI or utilizing blockchain?
Okay, the main challenge in building smart city, there is not one challenge. That is what my research spoke about. There are many challenges in building the smart cities. I can share my research findings. If they can email me, I will be able to share it. The main criteria to call a city as a smart city, um, there are different dimensions that we spoke about. A smart city needs to actually cater for all different dimensions, like people, economy, smart living, a smart transport system, everything. Um, it is using AI or is it utilizing blockchain? It has to have different technologies. So it is not just AI or blockchain. It can even be a simple technology, but if it covers these dimensions, then it is a smart city technology. So it is a combination of different technologies.
Okay, next question is from Umi Hasanah Zaidun. Uh, she asked about how these smart cities could provide safety environment from women and children. From your opinion, what would be the criteria for smart cities for women and children?
So, women and children, I think the main aspect I will think about is the safety aspect as well. So, how we discussed before in the AI enabled cameras and sensors, they can be utilized to provide safety. The drone systems, they can be utilized to provide safety. So the safety aspect is definitely covered within smart city. It's not just for women and children; it's for everybody in the city. In my opinion, what would be the criteria for smart cities, women and children? It should be improving their quality of life. It should be the first criteria. Quality of life is about health, is about safety, is about the social cohesion, how well they can actually mingle in the society, how well the woman can stand alone without anybody's independently, without anybody's um, support. So all these criteria forms part of the smart cities.
Okay, next is from Azizul Ghaffar. Singapore is one of Malaysia's closest neighbor. How come Malaysia not as advanced as Singapore in developing smart cities?
Okay, this is obviously it has to do with government and people and technology. So I wouldn't just say one factor, it has different factors. I spoke about government. So government need to be transparent and it needs to actually provide citizens allow citizens to provide their opinion in order to improve their community. It's not only that. People of Malaysia should also be willing to utilize these smart city solutions, and the technology should be should not be highly costed. So there are different aspects of the smart city technologies, right? uh, so if you take in one of the research, I don't want to disclose the name, where it came that there are smart city technologies, but the people don't want to utilize the smart city technology. They still want to walk and go to the municipal building, and they want to pay their cost. So it comes to different factors. It's not just single factor.
Okay. Last question from a Zoom miss. How do you advise in changing the mindset of people that believe AI or smart cities is intrusion to privacy?
Okay, so this also speaks about one of the recommendation that I spoke about my research finding. It's about increasing the education and awareness of the smart cities. What are the benefits that smart cities can provide by allowing them to provide this data? So they need to be educated. There can be different gamification. We can utilize gamification to allow government to provide more information or create more awareness and education on the smart cities. So that is one of the ways I could think of now. But there could be many ways. It's mainly the education and awareness.
Looks like we have covered all the questions. Thank you, Mrs. Gayatri and all the audience. And that's not all. Let's have our 15 minutes of break and we'll continue with the next session, which is WAI Masterclass. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, I am Faruza Amira.
Hi, I'm Gita.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sharifah Sakinah Ahmad.
Hi, I'm Khalija Jassi.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Nur Intan Raihana Ruhayim.
Hello everyone, I am Nur Zarin Zulkarnain.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I am Hamira Hania Abdurrahman.
Hi, my name is Farizana binti Hamza.
Hi, my name is Nurul Akila.
I am currently a data scientist at ST Microelectronics and Chief Operating Officer at Ever AI Technologies.
I'm also the founder of startup Jenga.
Currently, I'm Associate Professor in the Department of Intelligent Computing and Analytics, UTeM.
I'm also a statistician at WAI.
I am currently a senior lecturer at the School of Computer Sciences, University Science Malaysia.
Currently, I am a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Information and Communication Technology, University Technical Malaysia, Melaka.
I'm also a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Industrial Management, University Malaysia, Pahang.
And currently a second year student of Bachelor degree of Computer Science in Artificial Intelligence at University Technical Malaysia, Melaka.
Currently a final year student of Bachelor degree of Computer Science in Artificial Intelligence at University Technical Malaysia, Melaka.
Women in AI is awesome,
engaging,
remarkable,
passionate and dedicated,
and a great platform for building friendships.
So let's join Women in AI Malaysia Summit.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Muhammad Aidil bin Akyar. Saya adalah alumni Universiti Technical Malaysia Melaka dan merupakan graduan pada tahun 2010 dalam jurusan Control, Instrumentation and Automation Engineering di Fakulti Kejuruteraan Elektrik. Di sini bermula dengan 3 orang, iaitu saya, Safwan dan Syukri.
Hai, nama saya Ahmad Safwan Nizam Kamarudin, berasal daripada JT Besut. Aidil adalah seorang tulang belakang utama yang memang sentiasa follow saya masuk ke event-event, angkat barang, tolong saya selesaikan masalah yang kecil-kecil.
Apabila saya sudah habis belajar, saya dapat bekerja dalam bidang kejuruteraan.
Mungkin dalam WAI ni sendiri dia dah ada entrepreneurship punya soul. Bila dah kerja almost berapa bulan, dia telefon saya, cakap aku tak boleh lah nak kerja. So I cakap dekat dia, cakap kalau tak boleh nak kerja boleh, tapi kena balik kampung lah, duduk dengan aku menjahit.
Bila berhenti kerja, saya terus tukar passion ni untuk buat jeans. Broadena House bermula dengan kerja alteration seluar jeans. Pada masa sama, kami berminat untuk mengeluarkan jenama jeans kami sendiri. Ianya tercetus apabila saya membeli majalah fashion dari Jepun yang mana di dalamnya mengandungi maklumat cara-cara menghasilkan seluar jeans.
Idea ni dia sudah ada satu pengetahuan yang besar dalam fashion itu sendiri. Idea sebenarnya dia kolektor kepada majalah-majalah fashion daripada Jepun. So idea dia sangat suka dengan eccentric punya fashion.
Jadi disitulah titik permulaan kami dalam menghasilkan jeans kami sendiri sehingga hari ini. Kami bermula dengan membeli 4 jenis mesin jahit terpakai buatan Jepun dan USA. Mesin-mesin ini dikategori sebagai vintage dengan bernilai sekitar 10 hingga 30 ribu untuk sebuah mesin. Sehingga kini kami memiliki sebanyak 20 mesin bertaraf industri dan setiap mesin mempunyai fungsi yang berbeza-beza. Seluar jeans kami 100% buatan tangan, 100% buatan Malaysia. Di sini kami memanggil tukang jahit sebagai artisan sebabnya kami ingin memartabatkan kerjaya tukang jahit sebagai kerjaya profesional. Dalam masa 4 tahun berada di UTeM, saya mempelajari banyak ilmu dalam bidang kejuruteraan dan mendapat pendadahan dalam keesahanan. Dengan teknologi dan skill yang kami ada, kami berharap dapat mencipta kelainan sekaligus mampu bersaing dengan produk-produk antarabangsa.
Bagi saya, perjalanan ideal daripada seorang yang belajar dalam bidang engineering terjun kepada bidang fashion sebenarnya bukanlah sesuatu yang 360 degree punya perubahan, no. Muhammad Aidil ni sebenarnya adalah tuah kepada UTeM itu sendiri.
Sebagai tuah UTeM, saya berbangga kerana pernah mendapat naik juara dalam projek Inspireku di bawah SSN. Hari ini saya berbangga hasil kerja tangan saya telah menembusi pasaran antarabangsa. Sebagai anak Malaysia, saya berbangga kerana dapat mengharumkan nama Malaysia di peringkat antarabangsa. Di UTeM, masa depan tak menjanjikan harapan yang tinggi. Jadi terus manfaatkan ilmu yang diperolehi untuk diri sendiri dan masyarakat.
UTeM sangat beruntung kerana mempunyai seorang graduate seperti Aidil. Bagi saya, seorang yang sangat cekal bersama-sama saya mengharungi dunia keusahawanan yang sangat bercabar. Dan juga kepada bakal graduasi UTeM supaya ramai lagi usahawan yang bakal dilahirkan oleh UTeM pada masa hadapan.
Untuk mencapai cita-cita, ia memerlukan pengorbanan yang amat besar dan kesabaran yang tinggi.
depan adalah hari yang penting buatku. Tapi, alah aku lambat.
Masuk cepat.
Aku akan buktikan pada semua orang program aku yang terhebat.
Giliran awak, Hakim. Hakim, jumpa saya di ofis. Saya nak awak siapkan projek awak. Now. Habiskan. Dana Hakim, teruskan usaha.
Kadang-kadang kita tidak sedar ramai yang memimpin kita sehingga berjaya. Bakat dan potensi dalam diri kita sebenarnya lebih jelas di mata orang lain. Assalamualaikum, Puan.
The Women in AI Summit is on September 8th. I'm the founder of an AI and culture tech startup, and I'll be there.
I'm an AI scientist and educator. I'll be there.
Women in AI South Africa and the rest of Africa, I want to see you at our global Women in AI Summit happening on the 8th of September.
Ich bin Menschenrechtsaktivistin und ich werde dabei sein.
I'm a human-centric AI designer and I'll be there.
Women in AI 线上全球大会就在9月8号，我会参加。
I'm an entrepreneur in residence at Next AI Montreal and I'll be there.
Dołącz do tysięcy profesjonalistek AI z całego świata. Tym razem będą tam również Polki.
Soy entusiasta en inteligencia artificial y ahí estaré.
Moi, je suis entrepreneur dans la tech et je serai là.
Ich freue mich, euch mitzuteilen, dass am 8. September der Global WAI Summit, der Global Women in AI Summit stattfindet, virtuell auf allen möglichen Kontinenten. Und ich bin natürlich dabei und ich freue mich, wenn ihr euch anmeldet.
I'm a software engineer and I am going to be there.
I'm as a machinery engineer. We'll be there.
Ich bin Sheila, ich bin Software Engineer und ich möchte dort sein.
I'm a data scientist and I'll be there.
I am a technical consultant and I will be there.
私は日本のアンバサダーハッピーコムの戸田です。
I'm a passionate AI advocate, physician, and educator. I will be there.
I'm an AI startup CEO and I'll be there.
Women in AI máa wáyé nínú oṣù kẹsàn-án ọjọ́ kẹjọ nínú ọdún tá a wà yìí. Èmi jẹ́ olùkọ́ àgbà nínú ẹ̀rọ ìmọ̀ kọ̀ǹpútà ní Ọlábísí Ọ̀nàbànjọ University Àgọ́ Ìwòye Nàìjíríà. Èmi náà máa wà ń bẹ̀. Ẹ wá darapọ̀ mọ́ wa.
Women in AI Global Summit järjestetään syyskuun 8. päivä digitaalisesti, tuoden yhteen tekoälyasiantuntijoita ympäri maailmaa.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Again, I would like to welcome you to our Y Masterclass 3. The title is Analyzing Affective States Through Social Media Analytics. Let's recognize and acknowledge our speaker for today, Dr. Nurzarin Zulkarnain is a senior lecturer at University Technical Malaysia Melaka. She received her bachelor degree from University Technology Petronas in 2011 and master from the University of Manchester, UK in 2012 and a PhD in computer science from the University of Salford, UK in 2017. To begin this program, we are pleased to have Dr. Nurzarin to deliver her talk.
Right, thank you, Miss MC. Right, can I start? Yep. All right. Okay, Assalamualaikum, very good evening, everyone. Today I'll be talking to you about analyzing affective states through social media analytics. So as being mentioned by the MC, I am Dr. Nurzarin Zulkarnain, a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Information and Communication Technology, University Technical Malaysia Melaka. All right, for my presentation today, basically, I'm going to talk to you about social media analytics briefly, and then I will talk about affective states, what is sentiment analysis, as well as emotion detection. Right, I'm sure all of you are familiar with all these icons. Every day we use social media, even right now, our summit is being presented in Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So Facebook, I think it has the most user right now with 2.4 billion monthly active users. We also have YouTube with 1.9 billion monthly active users. Even though Twitter does not have that much, but they do have 140 million daily tweets. Instagram have about 95 million posts daily, and Snapchat has about 3 billion daily snaps. Okay, so this is a lot. Even professional social media platforms such as LinkedIn has over 30 million company pages. So as you can see, all of these are data. Even though it is professional information such as company information, all of those are data and it is very, very valuable. So what is actually social media analytics? It is the process of representing, analyzing, and extracting actionable patterns from social media data. There's a lot of impact from social media, whereby it can not just present information, not just share feelings or emotion, but it can also influence people. So the impact can be in many areas such as politics, business, socialization, economics, sports, and so forth. Like for example, I think a few weeks ago, Manchester United brought back Cristiano Ronaldo into the club, and this have caused a huge impact in social media. So people tweet about it, people talk about it, sharing their feelings about it. Same goes for other things like vaccines. There's a lot of information about vaccines. People share their opinions, their knowledge about it. Same goes about environment and all that. Not just positive impacts, sadly, social media does have negative impacts as well. This could be in the forms of like cyberbullying, fake news, spreading rumors, as well as privacy intrusion. However, there are still value towards social media. In contrast to survey or self-report, whereby people know that they are being assessed, social media gives us a probe to real human behavior, real human opinion, and real human language use. So when they don't know that they are being assessed, they will write freely, expressing themselves in whatever way they want, in whatever language they want. So by using social media, we get to see real data. And since there are a lot of social media data, there are a lot of information that we can use to analyze. But what we are more interested in today is the affective states. Okay, so we want to see how social media can be used to analyze affective states. Okay, affective basically means motion, sentiment, personality, moods, and attitudes. This is by Picard in 1995. He said this, or like what Webby et al. Has defined it as closely related to subjectivity, or the study of speakers or writers' evaluations, opinions, emotions, and speculations. So in short, you can say affective here talks about emotion, feelings, so closely related to our intrapersonal being. Okay. Scherer has come up with a typology of affective states. There are 5, which are emotion, mood, interpersonal stance, attitude, personality traits. So all of this looks similar, right? So what are actually the differences between it? Well, emotion basically are relatively brief episodes of response to the evaluation of an external or internal event. So meaning that emotion here is a response, okay, towards something. So if let's say you fell down the stairs and everybody looks at you, so in response to it, you become ashamed. Okay, so that is emotion. Mood, although it seems similar, but it is something that is usually a much longer feeling. It's not a response to something, and it can happen without any apparent cause. So, for example, you woke up one day and you feel gloomy. You don't feel like doing anything today. You don't have a reason for that, but you're just simply feeling it. And usually, it's not for a short while. It's a long, maybe the whole day you would feel it, right? So as compared to emotion just now, you don't have to have any reason to react. And then we also have interpersonal stance. So this is basically an affective stance toward another person. So in specific, during an interaction, maybe you feel warm. This person is warm towards you and you like that person. Or maybe you feel that that person is distant and you want to avoid the conversation. So this is interpersonal stance. It's similar to attitude, but attitude here is more towards either a person or an object, and usually it is close to your belief. So maybe you are used to certain brand and you like that brand. So it's not something that change quite easy as compared to interpersonal stance just now. And finally, personality traits. So this is emotionally laden. It's a stable personality, and it is usually inside of us. So a person might be more nervous than another person. It's not something that we can really change, like jealousy. Some people are not as jealous as another people, but one person could be more jealous compared to another. So this is something that is instilled inside you. Okay, like being anxious, for example. Some people, they are born to be speakers. They can talk in front of people without feeling anxious. But some, even though they have spoken many, many times in front of a lot of people, but they still feel anxious each time they go up on stage, right? So that would be personality traits. So when you talk about social media, people share a lot of things. It could be about their experience, it could be their opinion, it could also be facts. So whatever being written in social media usually would have meaning. So this meaning would relate to either the writer or reader's emotion. So not necessarily just the writer's emotion. It could also relate to the reader's emotion, sentiment, opinions, or evaluations. And all of this is what we call as connotations. When you extract connotations from text, especially, this is what we call as sentiment analysis, which is what I'm going to talk mostly about today. Right, so what exactly is sentiment analysis? Sentiment analysis is the task of extracting the positives or negative orientation that a writer expresses in a text. So simply looking at whether it's positive or negative, or actually in between of that, we do have neutral. Okay, wanting to see what is actually being presented, what is the sentiment behind that. So, for example, if you are a producer of a movie or an actor or something, you want to read the reviews. As a human being, it's easy to detect this. Like, for example, if you say unbelievably disappointing, disappointing here is negative. So you would say that it's a negative review. Like full of zany characters and some great plot twists. Zany characters, great plot twists, it would give a positive meaning. Therefore, you would say that the review is positive. If you read, this is the greatest screwball comedy ever film. So greatest here is of course positive. So you would say it's positive. And when you read it was pathetic, pathetic there is already a very strong negative word. And the worst part, another negative word about it is the boxing scene. So overall, you would say that it's negative. Of course, as a human, this is easily done, but not for computers. Okay, it's not easy for computers or AI to understand this. They need training. They need to understand the meaning behind the words, because human sees words as emotions, as feelings. Computer sees words just as words. So we need to find ways to do it. This is because if, let's say, you want to analyze only 10 reviews, yes, you can do it manually, like what we're doing right now, 4. It's okay. But what if you have thousands of reviews? Would you be able to do it manually? Would you have enough time to sit down and see one by one? And even if you can do it, once you have finished analyzing it, would that information still be relevant? Okay, so that's why we need AI to help us with this. So why sentiment analysis? Why is it important? Why do we want to do this? The most common field would be in business. So getting business intelligence. You want to understand why customers are not buying the product. Is this product review positive or negative? What are the public's attitude towards the campaign? So businesses uses this information. So instead of going around giving up surveys to rate their customer service or whatever, they can go straight into social media and try to find out the answers to all these questions. So this is one example of a product review, basically. So let's say if you're HP, you want to know, okay, you look at all these bars here, it's green and red, what does it mean? Okay, you see, oh, for customer service, it's 50-50, or maybe the red part is more. So you know that that is bad. Your customer service needs improvement. And then you look at the greens one. Even though there's a lot of green, which part is the best? Excuse me. All these are important for businesses because they need to know specifically where to improve and where they should highlight. So like now, they can see that the setup has the best score. We would say that's the most positive comment. So when they want to create ads or promotions or whatever, they would highlight that part, whereby the setup is easy. You don't need to have technical background and you could just plug in and simply print things, right? So that's important for them to know. And this is another example whereby you can search for your brand name. So for example, here United Airlines, trying to see the percentage of whether it's positive or negative. So you search the keyword and then it will give you a list of tweets or comments regarding that keyword. And then you can automatically see whether it's positive or negative. So like here, it's mostly negative. Therefore, United Airlines would need to come up with some solution on how they are going to win back their customers. So what's being done here is mostly known as social listening. So in social listening, what happens is that first, companies or brands, whatever, would monitor social media for mentions and conversations related to that brand. And then they would analyze it and see what action should be taken. So social media monitoring simply looks at metrics. So either engagement rate, number of mention, how many likes, how many shares, and things like that. But social listening looks beyond those numbers because it wants to consider the mood behind the data. So of course, if there's a lot of engagement, a lot of views, but it doesn't show you whether people watch that video because they like it or because they're just curious about it or because it's trending. People are all saying bad things about it and people want to watch. We don't know that. is just numbers, even though it gives some information, but it would be much better to know more, which is looking at the mood. So we know that, okay, out of this 1,000 views, 700 are positive, 300 are negative. So you know that you're okay. Right? So social listening looks more at the sentiment, the emotion, the mood behind the data instead of just the numbers. So sentiment analysis can also be used in politics. So you want to analyze trends, identify ideological bias, target advertising or messages, and gauging reactions. So this is important for political parties, for presidential candidates to know whether the public are liking them and are agreeing with their policies. This is an example of an experiment being done quite, I would say quite recently. The paper is published quite recently, but this is for the 2016 presidential election in the US, whereby it shows the votes. Okay, if you can see on the left side is the vote result, the right side is the predicted vote result. What they did was they gather demographic data, economic data on peoples in Georgia, and they also track tweets which are geotagged to Georgia, and they try to look at the sentiment of people talking about Clinton and Trump. So from there, they came up with the predicted result. And if you can see, there's not much differences between the two. Other than politics, sentiment analysis can also be used in sociology. So this is regarding human behavior. So wanting to look at opinions, reactions to either ideas, events, and also looking at relationship between human beings. So this is another example of a study. This looks at the match between Brazil and Netherlands. This is one of the World Cups. I think it's 2014 or something like that. So if you can see in the graph, it started off with low polarity for both. And when there's a goal, okay, blue here is Brazil, red is Netherlands. So when Netherlands scores, you can see there's a changes in the polarity. The Netherlands is still quite here, but for Brazil, it drops a lot. And then when Netherlands scores some more, it goes down much more. And when it's 3-0, it goes up a bit, and then it ended, right? So you can also have this kind of information using social media. You can look at events and you can compare with the sentiment of the public during that event. This is another example. This is quite recent, 2020, whereby it looks at daily messages regarding cryptocurrencies. If you can see here, these are the messages regarding those cryptocurrencies. This is the trading volume. Interestingly, the blue one here is Bitcoin, orange here is Ethereum. If you can see between the two, it is correlated. It matches, you know, if it's highly being mentioned, it is also highly being traded. Currently, there's no specific reason for this yet, but it shows that gathering data from social media could help you with this kind of predictions. So if you know that when people talk a lot about Bitcoin, then it will get traded more, then you would know what kind of action to take. Next would be in psychology. So sentiment analysis is also able to augment psychological investigation and experiments using natural language text. So for example, on the left side here, Al-Sagri here et al. 2020 looks at user activity features. So they look at numbers basically, followings, number of followers, total number of posts, average posts per day and all that, and trying to gauge the depression rate of the person. This is another work which I've done as well talking about depression detection, whereby instead of looking at number metrics like this, we try to look at content metrics. So we look at keywords, sentiments, absolute words. So basically keyword here, whether there is an increase of the usage of depression related keywords, and then sentiment here we look at whether it's positive, negative, and we look at the number of absolute words being used by a person. So absolute words basically are words that means entirety, something like totally, always. So tweet saying like, why is it always me? I'm going to quit this totally. I'm never going to do this ever again. So all those kinds of entirety words, we look at that as well and trying to classify it as depressed or non-depressed. So I think more and more research are being done regarding mental illness using social media analytics, especially because of the rise of problems related to mental illness. So things like depression, anxiety, stress, and all that. All right, this is another interesting experiment, I would say, whereby the authors looks at heart rates and whether the person tweets in negative or positive sentiments. So at first they track the heartbeat of a person when they tweeted positive things and when they tweeted negative things. So they took those results and used that to train a machine learning algorithm, and they come up with this part here, which is the prediction. And then they look at the real one as well. So sorry, this part is the prediction. This one is the real one. And if you can see, it doesn't go away too much. So it is interesting to see that there is also correlation between the sentiment of what you are tweeting or what you are sharing in social media and the heart rate that you currently have. So for this experiment, they have used Fitbit to track the heart rate. So when they tweet it, they would see whether there's a rise on the heartbeat or not, and they would plot it, and these are the results. Right, so basically we've talked about social media analytics, we've talked about sentiment analysis, and we've seen what we can do with social media analysis. Sentiment analysis. Like I said, in sentiment analysis, it's we can say it's binary because we look at positive, negatives, and neutral. So if it's not positive or negative, it will be neutral. What about if we want it to be more specific? We don't want to just know whether it's negative or positive, but we want to know exactly how that person is feeling, what kind of emotion that the person is facing or having at that time. So that is where emotion detection comes from. Instead of just looking at positives and negatives, we look at different kind of emotions. Usually, research or whatever will take into account either the Platschik wheel of emotion. So you can see here, there's 8 petals here. So each 4, you can see it's contradicting each other. So like if joy, it would contradict sadness, anger would contradict fear. So it works like that, Platschik wheel of emotion. Or researchers would use Paul Ekman's basic emotion. So Paul Ekman's have listed 6 emotions, which are surprise, happiness, anger, fear, disgust, and sadness. So if you want to do anything related to emotion, you need to have at least these 6 basic emotions. So when you talk about emotions, there are actually 3 dimensions that you can look at, right? So firstly, valence. Valence is the positivity or negativity of an emotion. So when you have whatever kind of emotion, it stands towards either negative or positive. For example, happiness is a kind of positive emotion. while sadness would be negative emotion. Arousal, on the other hand, would be the intensity of that emotion provoked by the stimulus. So when you talk about arousal, you check whether it is an intense emotion or not an intense emotion. Like maybe if we say anger, anger would be a high intensity emotion, because when you're angry, you can say it is quite intense. It is something that you need to use your energy to actually express anger, as compared to maybe boredom. Boredom would be a low intensity emotion, because you don't use much of your energy, and it doesn't provoke much of your stimulus, and you don't do, if you're feeling bored, there's not much action that you do compared to if you're feeling angry, right? And the third dimension would be dominance. So dominance here talks about the degree of control exerted by the stimulus. So how well can you control that emotion? I think a good example would be fear. Fear would be of fear is of low dominance, yes, because you cannot control it. It's not something that you can control. Let's say if you have fear for heights, you don't know why you have fear for heights. You can't even control it. It's just something that you feel, right? So it's of low dominance because you cannot control it. As compared to admiration. Admiration would be an emotion that is with high control, because if you admire someone, it's something that you can be selective of that. You would have maybe a certain type of criteria of people that you like. So compared to fear just now, it's hard to control. Admiration, much easier. So we would say fear has low dominance, and admiration here have high dominance. So those three are the dimensions of emotion. And again, why? Why would we want to know this? Excuse me. So like I said, if we have negative customer review, why is it negative? If companies do not know why, it's hard to act. But when you do emotion detection, you know that, okay, it's negative because they are angry about something, about certain issue. So you know that, okay, if this is the issue, you solve that issue and it should be okay. But if it's negative because people don't trust your brand, then that would be something else. It's much bigger problem, because building trust is not something easy. So when you know this, you can take better action. Same goes to like, let's say if I'm searching about online learning. If I have a negative statistics, I just know that, okay, it's negative, but I don't know why. So if we get the emotion, let's say unhappy, so we can figure out how to make it a much happier class. If it's boredom, then maybe I need to change the way I teach. Or if it's fear, maybe the students are fearing technology or whatever, then we know how to tackle that. Same goes to positive reviews as well. So we don't want to just know whether it's positive. We want to know what kind of positivity is it? Is it joy, surprise, trust? So that when we know the exact reason for negativity, we can tackle it. And for positiveness, when we know exactly what causes it to be positive, we can highlight it, right? So that's why we need it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit on how actually sentiment analysis and emotion detection work. So this is very, very brief actually. I need to spend another hour to explain this exactly. But generally, there are three ways to do sentiment analysis or emotion detection. Firstly, rule-based. So rule-based, basically we have a set of rules, human crafted, trying to look at the subjectivity, polarity of an opinion. So maybe we have, let's say, we count the number of words in a document, and then we look at how many of it are positive, how many of it are negative, and from there we refer to a set of rules, and we can come up with whether it's positive or negative. And then we can also use machine learning. So of course, this is automated. We train the algorithm first using a set of maybe, let's say we talk about tweets. So we have a set of tweets, we label it whether it's positive, negative, or whatever, and we use that to train the machine learning algorithm so that the next time we feed it with another list of tweets, it is able to automatically tell us whether it's positive or negative. And lastly would be hybrid system, which basically combines both rule-based and automatic approaches. Right, I think I'm almost at the end. So when we talk about rule-based or even machine learning, we can use what we call an effective lexicon. Lexicon here is basically a dictionary, you can say that, a dictionary for the computers, whereby you have a set of words and you also have the scores for the words. So whether it's positive or negative, if it's positive, how intense is it, and things like that. So these are some examples of the lexicon. So the General Inquirer is a quite, I think, established one. It's I think from 1966 or something like that. It's quite established. And then we also have WordNet, SentiWordNet, which is specific to sentiment analysis. We also have Vader here, which is built specifically for social media. And then we also have, other than that, is Emolex, LIWC, and NRC Valence, Arousal and Dominance Lexicon. So this is just one example I took from NRC. So you can see the lexicon would be something like this. So you have a set of terms, and then you have the score. So like NRC here is looking at valence, arousal, and dominance, which is the three emotion dimension. So it gives scores based on that. So antisocial has 0.146 valence, 0.686 arousal, 0.391 dominance. So antisocial is low dominance, you would say, high arousal, and low valence. Okay, so like anxiety is another example, high arousal, okay, because it works you out, you use all your emotions and everything, but low dominance because it's not something easy for you to control. Right, so yeah, I guess that's it. I would like to end this with a quote from Mike DiLorenzo. He's a social media marketing director in at NHL, which is the National Hockey League. So he said that social networks aren't just about websites, they're about experience. And I agree with him because social media is not just a place for you to put up things, but all those information, all those experiences or whatever that you share are valuable and has connotations with it. You know, it has meaning, it has mood, and there's a lot that we can do with it. So let's not look at social network just as a place for you to put facts or whatever, but let's look at it as, I would say, a mine for data and a mine for you to understand behaviors, especially human behaviors. All right. So I think that's all from me. I'll give the floor back to the MC for any question and answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zareen, for wonderful talk. So now let's move to Q&A session. Okay, we have from Arif Rahimin. The first question is, can sentiment analysis differentiate between sarcastic posts and serious posts?
All right, thank you, Arif. I think this is a good question. There are actually many challenges in performing sentiment analysis, and one of it is, of course, sarcastic posts. Even as a human being, this is not something easy for you to do. So I would say at the current stage, this is still something that we are researching about, because of course we can tag tag the words with emotions and all that, But like I said, even as a human being, you cannot be entirely sure what the person is intending when they say a certain word. So something like, wow, you look beautiful today. Do you really mean that? Or you actually mean something else? So one way that we might be able to do it is by getting a set of possible sarcastic um, sentences or whatever, label it as sarcastic, try to run it, uh, train maybe a machine learning algorithm using those set of corpus, and see whether we can detect sarcasm. But at this stage, I won't say that it's not possible, but it's quite hard to do. Right. Thank you,
Okay,
Arif,
thank
for the
you.
question.
And for next question is from Rahmat Shazi. The question is, social listening is fascinating. What are its similarities with social capital?
All right. I'm not so familiar with social capital, so it's quite hard for me to answer this. Maybe Rahmat, can you um, elaborate a bit on social capital, and then we'll get back to this question again. Would that be fine, Fairuz?
Okay. We
Right.
proceed with next question. Next question is from Brian Ho. The question is, do transformer models perform better than classic features-based models in emotional or sentiment analysis?
All right. Thank you, Brian Ho, for the question. Okay. This is an interesting question because, as you know, nowadays we have a lot of transformers, like, for example, GPT-3. To ask whether it performs better, we need more experiments. But yes, you can say that it performs better. But however, it is not being widely used because of other disadvantages. I did saw one work using GPT-3 trying to perform sentiment analysis. So using OpenAI's transformer, it managed to do the work well, and it managed to do the work fast as well. But the concern is more towards the cost of it and the resources. So meaning because it use a quite number of preprocessing power. So if it's hosted in the cloud, it won't be easy to use. So to answer your question, I think if you just want to ask whether it performs better, we need more study to say that it performs better. But it there are a few researchers that shows that it performs better. But the question would be more about whether it is suitable for wide use. I would say that would be the answer.
Okay, thank you. And next question is from Paimon. The question is, hi doctor, how do we differentiate false or fake rumors or news in social media? Does sentiments analysis can be used here as well?
All right, this is also a good question. Um, like all of you know, when we had COVID-19, there's a lot of information. People wanted to post everything fast, and they don't consider to fact check. So to do this, it's not as easy as looking at just one tweet. We need to try and see the tweets being given by that profile. So I'm talking entirely about tweets right now, because when we do social analysis and all that, most of the data comes from Twitter, because Twitter is a bit more lenient on its privacy compared to Facebook. So that's why I talk much about Twitter. So yeah, it's not easy to differentiate when you look only at that particular tweet. So there needs to be a more thorough study on that particular profile. So same like in the real world. So if someone tells you information, you would check the credibility of that person. So in this case, it will be the same, whereby you would check the credibility of the person posting. All right. So the conclusion would be, it's hard if you just look at one, but it is possible if you are able to go through the profile itself.
Okay, next is from Fairoza Amira. The question is, may I know which libraries do you use to identify all these sentiments? Maybe can share also on how properly identify the sentiments, pre-processing step, let's see.
All right. Thank you, Fairuza Amira. Uh, okay. If based on my experience, I normally use existing lexicons. So if I work on social media data, one of my favorite would be using Veda. Okay, so because like I mentioned just now, Veda here is being built specifically for social media, so it takes into account all these internet slangs, so short forms like BRB, and then emoticons and all that. So the general process would be, let's say we are using machine learning. So what would happen is that we would crawl for the data first. So maybe select it using keywords. Okay, let's give an example. Let's say online learning. We want to know about online learning. We want to see what are the sentiments. What we would do is try to gather uh, crawl data from whatever platform of your choice, let's say Twitter. So use as much keywords as possible that is related to that subject. So maybe online learning, online, Microsoft Teams, student, whatever. Use that keywords, and then you'll be able to extract a number of tweets. So when you have that, the next step will be pre-processing. So you would look at sometimes you have a lot of tweets which are repeated. This is usually retweets. Okay, and then you would also have tweets which contains links, so it doesn't have any meaning, so it's just links towards another website. So you don't want all this. And then sometimes there are also noises inside there, whereby it could be a reply to someone. So to look at a reply is another story, because you need to look at the whole conversation to get an idea. And then you need to remove all these things such as RT and all that, which doesn't give any meaning. And then the next step would be to perform some kind of tokenization to break it into a chunk of words. And well, basically there are a lot other pre-processing techniques that you can choose to use. And when you are satisfied with the quality of data that you have, the next step would be to train it. So the best thing with using Veda is that it is already trained, so you don't need to train it. So you can basically just use the lexicon, and you would get a statistic of whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. So this is one example. Of course, there are many ways of doing it. All right.
Next question is from Rose Lily. The question is, you mentioned a number of lexicon that can be utilized for the sentiment analysis. However, most of the lexicon currently is in English. Do we have any established Malay lexicon available?
All right. Thank you, Ruslili, for the question. Malay language is known as a low resource language, so we don't have a lot of resources regarding this. What researchers do would be either to translate it, so get it in Malay, translate it, and use English lexicons, but we might lose some important meanings or whatever. However, I did came across what we call the Malaya NLP, Malaya lexicon or something like that, which you can use. It is quite extensive. It does have a lot of words in Malay language, which talks about not just sentiment, but you also have words regarding cyberbullying, or yeah, there are a lot of categories that you can use to do not just sentiment analysis, but things such as not translation, a summarization, question and answer, and all that. So maybe if you would like, you could check it out. Malaya lexicon, if I'm not mistaken. You can check it out.
Okay, next question is again with from Rose Lily.
Alright.
The question is, does sentiment analysis related to depression analysis? What are the major difference between these two domains?
All right. Sentiment analysis, basically, like I mentioned just now, just looks at positive, negatives, and neutral. So not actually looking at emotions. So depression analysis, well, we don't actually call it depression analysis. It's more towards trying to detect depression. So depression detection. Um, this is a much harder task to do, but of course it's a different thing because depression detection wants to, the objective is to detect depression. Sentiment analysis is to try to detect the sentiment. But what I can say is the relation between the two is sentiment analysis helps in depression detection. So if you are depressed, your sentiment would mostly be negatives. So before actually detecting the emotion or even depression, we would first try to analyze the sentiment, the overall sentiment of the tweet. So whether it's positive or negative. So if it's positive, um, mostly we can rule it out as not having depression. But when it's negative, it might not have depression. So you can go to the next stage, which is looking at the emotion and then look at the depression rate of the tweet.
Okay, the next question is from Azizul Ghaffar. The question is, in Dr. Zarin's experience, which algorithm is best for sentiment analysis?
All right. I do most of my works is on social media. So like I mentioned just now, because Veda was trained for social media, so I use that a lot. But if you talk about sentiment analysis in general, so not just social media, so maybe if you have a long paragraph that you would like to see the sentiment of it, or maybe the sentiment of a news article, whatever. So maybe you can use something like SentiWordNet, because WordNet is established and it has a lot of um, words in it, and it is also being trained using newspaper articles and all that. And its sister lexicon, which is SentiWordNet, is an extension of it and contains all these kind of emotions. So if you want to do on social media, I would go for Veda. But if you want to go for an overall sentiment analysis, then maybe you can use either SentiWordNet, or you can also try LIWC. I think that would be my suggestion for the algorithm, for lexicon basically. Oh, sorry.
So,
Which algorithm is it? So I'm not answering the question. If algorithm, best would be hybrid. So between rule based or machine learning, I would say best would be hybrid because it takes the best out of that too. Okay, so if algorithm, that is my answer. Sorry, I thought it was lexicon just now.
okay, so the next question is from Brian Ho. The question is, how do you handle bahasa acronyms and slang in sentiments or emotion detection?
All right, thank you, Brian Ho. Yeah, like I mentioned just now, because bahasa is a low resource language, we don't have many resources in doing that. That's why if we take tweets which are jumbled up between the language during the pre-processing stage, we need to decide either to translate it or not to take it at all. So it goes during the pre-processing stage lah. So if it's entirely in BM, then you can use Malaya. But if it's entirely in English, you have also a lot of other choices. But mixed language is currently still a problem. So one method to do it is to either remove it or to do translation. Right.
Next question is from Azizul Ghaffar again.
Okay.
Dia kata, if I'm currently doing my final year project, what project with sentiment analysis do you suggest?
Right. this is not fair. All right, no. Well, it depends on what you're studying. If you're a computer science student, then well, there are a lot of areas that you can look at. If you are interested in businesses, then it's two things actually. Either you want to use sentiment analysis as an application, so you can apply it in whatever fields, like the one I mentioned. Maybe you want to look at, I don't know, if you watch football, maybe you play Fantasy Premier League. Maybe you can see whether there is any connection between what people tweet about a player and whether those sentiments affects the buying of the players in Fantasy Premier League. So maybe a lot of people are tweeting about Ronaldo, for example. Do people buy him in Fantasy Premier League? You can do that. I don't know if that is if application lah, but you need to look at, of course, what is the problem. When you do a research, the first thing you want to look at is the problem. But if you are interested on the technology or maybe algorithm itself, then you would look at problems related to sentiment analysis. So something like maybe like Arif just now asked about the what just now was Arif's question on the sarcasm. So maybe you can look at sarcasm, or maybe you can look at how to detect fake news. So those would be related more towards the algorithm. So I'm not sure what course are you taking. So if you're not doing computer science, so the application part will be better. But if you're doing computer science, maybe you can try to tackle these kinds of problems in sentiment analysis.
Okay, next question is from Rusli Lee again. The question is, I would interested to talk about intention analysis with you. Dr. Zarin, can I email you later?
Yes, of course. I've provided my email there, so please feel free to email me to ask anything. For the others as well, if you have anything that you want to ask, feel free to email me. Yep.
Okay. Next is Rahmat Shazi has responded from the earlier, and he provide a link. So maybe you may check out the link later.
All right. Maybe I will check later, and I will reply to the comments in Facebook. Is that Facebook or YouTube?
It's from Facebook.
All right. I will reply to him later.
Okay, I think there is no more questions. So we'd like to thank you, Dr. Nuzarin, and all audience for the questions. I think that's all. And well, everyone, let's wrap up the session for this evening. And thank you all for making time in busy schedule to join us here. It's been my pleasure to host the event, and I wish you all a pleasant day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, MC, as well.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Faruza Amira.
Hi, I'm Gita.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sharifah Sakina Ahmad.
Hi, I'm Khalida Jasti.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Nur Intan Raihana Ruhayim.
Hello everyone, I am Nur Zarin Zulkarnain.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I am Hamira Hania Abdurrahman.
Hi, my name is Farisana binti Hamzah.
Hi, my name is Nurul Akila.
I am currently a data scientist at ST Microelectronics and Chief Operating Officer at Ever AI Technologies.
I'm also the founder of startup Jenga.
Currently, I'm Associate Professor in the Department of Intelligent Computing and Analytics, UTeM.
I'm also a statistician at WAI.
I am currently a Senior Lecturer at the School of Computer Sciences, University Science Malaysia.
Currently, I am a Senior Lecturer at the Faculty of Information and Communication Technology, University Technical Malaysia, Melaka.
I'm also a Senior Lecturer at the Faculty of Industrial Management, University Malaysia, Pahang.
And currently a second year student of Bachelor Degree of Computer Science in Artificial Intelligence at University Technical Malaysia, Melaka,
Currently a final year student of Bachelor Degree of Computer Science in Artificial Intelligence at University Technical Malaysia Melaka.
Women in AI is awesome,
engaging,
remarkable,
passionate and dedicated,
and a great platform for building friendships.
So let's join Women in AI Malaysia Summit.